Pat yourself on the back because you are right here, right now, for a reason. Welcome to the On Purpose podcast, where together we will empower ourselves and others to live lives with more passion and purpose.
How you doing this morning, Jared?
I'm all right, man. I'm all right. I don't feel my usual fire. I'm not gonna lie. Um, just working through things, I believe.
We're almost there, brother.
I hope so. I hope so. How are you feeling, buddy?
I'm feeling good, man. I'm feeling good. I've been hitting my gratitude practice a little bit harder and really trying to focus on that. Really, all the things that I'm grateful for, and it's powerful, man. Coupled with the meditation, some yoga, some movement and fitness,
Yeah.
Can't help but to feel good and grateful, even with these weird times.
Yeah, I did. Andrew and I got to do a little meditating before recording this morning, so that definitely feels good. Just that time with her. Um,
Nice.
but it's kind of like what we talked about in the last episode, knowing thyself. It's part of knowing, at least for me, knowing myself is I don't have to be perfect every day, and I don't have to um, be at my best every day. I'm gonna have moments where you just don't quite feel like it, to be honest. And for me, that's kind of the big reflection I took away, is just continuing to work on accepting these small things as well. Because we talked about forgiving things in your past and forgiving what kind of maybe you didn't like or what caused you pain. But I think also you need to practice is forgiving on the more micro level, the small things you maybe don't do that you wished you would have done, or just forgiving yourself for not, when you wake up, you don't feel your best today. It's okay. You don't have to go through the day beating yourself up for not feeling your best.
Yeah,
Would
definitely, man.
Would you get takeaways on
Some
that?
good
How's your
insights.
work been there?
It's been interesting, man, because as you know, I'm on this humility path right now, the humble journey, and I had some interesting insights of so I've actually did the exercise last year of asking some close family members, close friends, ex-girlfriend, things like that, of greatest strengths and weaknesses, and a lot of them were at what I would have assumed, extroverted, great communicator, high energy, positive, and weaknesses kind of had to be along the lines of, uh, to say it bluntly, sometimes lacking empathy and selfishness, and and I've really been exploring. I've been enjoying some aspects of humility, but it brought me back to, we're always going to have weaknesses.
Yeah.
We can't be all 99s like in the video game, like
Yeah.
everything's going to be. That's why they're called strengths and weaknesses, right? Not everything's going to be your strength. And I think on this humility journey, it's nice to be humble at times, but I enjoy being confident, man. I enjoy being bold and loud, and I think I'm kind of coming full circle with this. I've been really trying to be more humble, and it's great. But I think a big aspect for me, at least, is I am a very extroverted person. I like to be loud. I like to have character. I like to be confident and talk a little shit and be competitive in aspects. So I enjoyed that, and I'm happy with the person I am today, man. I'm proud of myself. I wanna read you a poem real quick
Yeah.
that my mentor read me last night, because I was telling him about the recent mirror conversations,
Hmm.
and it really resonated with me. So check this out. It's called The Man in the Glass. When you get what you want in your struggle for self, and the world makes you king for a day, then go to the mirror and look at yourself and see what that man has to say. For it isn't a man's father, mother, or wife whose judgment upon him must pass. The fellow whose verdict counts most in life is the man staring back from the glass. He's the fellow to please, never mind all the rest, for he's with you clear to the end. And you've passed the most dangerous, difficult test, for he's with you, or I'm sorry, difficult test if the man in the glass is your friend. You can fool the whole world down the pathway of years and get pats on the back as you pass. but the final reward will be heartache and tears if you've cheated the man in the glass.
Wow, that's good.
Right?
I kind of
I'm
just want you to read to me more.
bedtime story.
Ollie, can you read me to bed?
No, man, I
That-
know. When he read that to me, I felt the same way. I was like, whoa, I
yeah,
need to
no,
print
that's
that
good.
off.
What is Man in the Glass? I think I might actually print that up. I'm gonna put that up in the kids' bathroom. That'd be good
Yeah,
for
the
them
man in the glass. I
just to
mean, it's so
reflect on.
true, man, to where we can get all the praise in the world and tell people tell us we're great, but if we're cheating ourselves and if we're breaking these promises to ourselves, then all we're gonna have is heartache and tears, like it says in the poem.
Wow. Yeah, no, that's good. Appreciate you sharing that with us.
Yeah, definitely, man.
And I think that ties in well to the guest we have coming on today.
Second female guest on
Who-
the OPP, baby.
That was all about making a promise to yourself.
Yeah, I saw some of her stuff she submitted about self-integrity, so I'm excited to get her on.
Yeah, cool. You ready to do it?
Let's do it. Let's bring her on. All right, On Purpose community, I have the humble privilege to introduce the On Purpose podcast second ever female guest, Miss Rachel Pastor. She is the founder of Fitness Festival Events, as well as the founder of Break Free podcast and community. She has 12 years in transformation coaching, and she's impacting the masses with the joy of health and fitness, providing a unique platform for businesses to give attendees and communities an incredible experience year round. And with all of this stuff that she has going on, she also has time to be a loving wife and mother of 2 children. So guys, please help me welcome Miss Rachel Pastor. How you doing, Mrs. Pastor?
I'm doing good. I'm doing great.
How do you feel when he calls
Yeah.
you Mrs. Pastor? Did you immediately start thinking you just got older? Or you're like, don't do
Well,
that.
he hasn't called me ma'am, so we're still good.
Oh, no, it's
All right,
awesome.
so I got to leave the ma'ams behind.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, that's one of the best parts of the show is his Texas accent, and ma'am's a big word in that.
I guess I got to leave them behind today, Mrs. Pastor.
Rachel, it's good to have you here. It's been a long time coming. We are excited to be able to share your story with our community, and especially in this kind of time we're going through right now. I think anybody that's focused on bringing joy to people, no matter how they reach them, is super needed.
Yeah. Well, I feel very honored to be here. I have listened to your podcast and I absolutely love it. I love what you guys share. I love the energy you bring. So I'm grateful to be here.
Good. All right. So have you rehearsed for our warm-up yet? We're starting to have problems with this lately.
No, I don't rehearse. Let's just go.
Okay, good.
Oh,
All right,
nice.
so we don't like to just jump you into the heavy stuff first. We like to warm up our body, just like a good workout routine. So, first warm-up question we have for you, Rachel, is I know you're into fitness. Ollie and I are too, but now we're gonna push the envelope a little bit here. You get one food for the rest of your life. What are you taking?
One food.
Yep, one food.
I'll do a piece of breaded chicken.
Okay.
Interesting. What's the theory on that?
Well, thinking about being able to get the carbohydrates with the protein, if that's the only thing that I can eat, I'm gonna feel good and I'm gonna look good. So
Okay. Is this like panko crusted chicken or what?
KFC?
it's gonna be a heavier breaded, panko crusted chicken.
No
All right.
KFC then. You're not running by KFC and getting a bucket. All right. Well, that's good.
Breaded chicken. Okay. All right. Second warm-up question, Rachel. If you could be any superhero, a fictional one or made up, you could be super pastor, whatever it is, with any superpower, who would you be and what power would you have?
Any superpower? Oh man. Well, I would be some some type of Wonder Woman. But I think my superpower um would be to be able to heal people.
Ooh, that's a
Nice.
good power.
A healer.
Mhm.
Cool.
How would you heal them? Like with magical band-aids and stuff, or just like spirit? Would you be able to just look at them and put them back together?
Yeah, I would just be able I wouldn't even need to touch them. Like I'd just be able to look at them and whatever they're in pain with, whatever they're suffering with, I'd be able to heal that.
That might be the best superhero response we've had so far, Ali.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Here I am thinking flying's pretty cool, and Rachel's out saving the world, healing everybody. I'm just flying around having a good time. All right, Rachel, last warm-up question for you. What book are you currently reading?
Oh man, I am actually reading a couple. I'm rereading You're a Badass with Money. I think that's what does she call that one? It's the same lady that wrote You're a Badass, but it's her money version.
Uh,
Oh.
we have. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, I
How's that
can't
going?
remember.
You're
I
rereading
think
it, so it's the second time through?
yeah, I've read You Are a Badass a few times. I really, really like it. And then Gabby Bernstein, Super Attractor. I'm going through that a second time. So I'm rotating through those two right now. So You're a Badass with Money, and then Super Attractor.
Is that Jen Sincero?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Nice.
Yep.
Did you know that off your head, or you Googled it?
Knew it because of Google.
We're so smart with Google. All right, well, good. I think you're warmed up now. How you
All right.
feeling?
I feel good.
You feel good? You ready to get this story out to the On Purpose community?
Yeah.
Well,
Sounds
let's
good.
do it.
Let's do it.
All right. Well, one thing that I didn't mention here in your intro, Rachel, is that your business is primarily focused on helping busy people
Mhm.
lose weight, reach fitness goals, and prioritize their health with simplified custom plans and high level accountability. And I really like how you said, a big piece of your purpose is helping others find the joy of health and fitness, because a lot of people look at it as this arduous task that health and fitness can't be fun. So tell us in our community a little bit about how you stumbled upon this purpose in your life.
Mhm. Yeah, so I was basically introduced to this joy in the darkest time in my life. I was, when I was 20 years old, really is when I hit my rock bottom in my life. I was homeless, coming out of a 5 year IV heroin addiction. And I had just lost, you know, the last person that I had left in my life had just passed away from a drug overdose, and it really was in that moment death or change. And so I had tried to change many, many, many times before. I tried to clean up my life a lot, many times, but this time I said it's either this or I'm gonna die. And so I sold my car that I had, that I lived out of. It didn't even run. I just would sleep out of it. And I sold it for $500, and it bought me a plane ticket to Hawaii. I took everything I had in one suitcase, and I went over there and I said, when I step off this plane, I will never use again. And that meant anything. I had been on methadone for many years, and so I said I didn't even I said I'm not going to do anything. So I stepped off that plane, and it was a long, slow recovery. About a year into my recovery, somebody that I was working with asked me if I wanted to go to 24-hour fitness. And at that time, I really just wanted somebody to connect with. And so I thought, you know what, I'll go. I want to create some type of friendships. I had no healthy friendships. I really didn't have any friends at that time. And so we walked on the treadmill and we watched TV while we talked. And she invited me to go back again and again. And each time we'd go, we'd kind of explore a little bit more. She was a little bit newer into fitness as well.
Where were you
And
working at the time?
so I worked out on a beach in Maui as a concierge. I basically we handed out snorkel equipment and got people to do things around the island.
Cool.
Pretty sweet gig.
Yeah.
So so that's what we would do. And so every time we'd go, we'd do a little bit more, ended up like hiring a personal trainer, splitting the cost so that he could show us like how to even like use the weights out on the floor. And then I tried my first group fitness class, and literally that was it. I walked into my first cycling class. I was scared as hell, and sat there with all those people, and I started riding away, and everybody starts hooting and hollering, and you start pushing harder, and the music, and I was so amped on life. Like I had not felt anything like this that I can remember ever. And I was driving home, and I thought, like, I was seriously on cloud nine, and I was thinking to myself, like, what is this? How did I not know about this before? Yep. And more people have got to know about this. All I was thinking about is like all the people in my life that I knew that were suffering and that were looking for exactly what I was looking for many, many years. And that was I was looking for the light that I saw in other people. I wanted that for myself. I wanted to be happy. I wanted to feel good. I wanted those things for myself. I just didn't know how to find it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I that would like propelled me into it. I like, I was hooked from then on. And later it led into me just when I was going to come back to Colorado. I decided that I was going to work in the health and fitness industry, no matter what it took. If I worked at the front desk, I was going to work at the front desk. I was going to figure out how the people learned how to train people, and I was going to go from there. And I did. I moved back to Colorado, and I went back to school. I started working in the gym, and it really unfolded from there.
I want to know, how did you pick Hawaii? Like, talk to me through like that process of saying, okay, this is it. Like, I've got to make this change. Because I think a lot of people, especially in our community, we've talked about this so many times, like our circle of five, right? And we're wanting something different, but we're still in the same environment. So why did you pick Hawaii, and why was that so important for your next step?
Yeah, so Hawaii was because I knew a lady that lived there. I knew her daughter. Her daughter lived in Colorado. I knew that her mom lived there. They're people who had been a part of my life early on in my journey. And so when I had called her up and asked her if I could come live with her, I knew she most likely would let me. And she just said, yes, you can come rent this bedroom, but if you ever use in my home, you will never, ever stay here again. So,
Wow. And how did you go clinical treatment and stuff over there, or you willed your way through it?
I willed my way through it, but I will say it was extremely painful. I had detoxed many times on my own. So I already knew what I was in for there. What I didn't know what I was in for is the detox from methadone. Methadone took me years to detox out of my body. Methadone gets into your bones. So it's a much longer, painful detox than a heroin detox. And so that was very interesting to me. It was, my body hurt, and it was painful to even get out of bed for a very long time.
Wow.
Thank you for sharing that with us. That's an amazing story.
Yeah. I have like 22 questions right now. I'm just like, what? It's not every day you hear someone share that, have the vulnerability to share that they have worked through an addiction of that sort. So for our listeners, I caught an IV heroin addiction, and then methadone. What exactly is that?
Methadone is it was prescribed by the government. So there's methadone clinics all around the United States. And they have a couple different types of drugs, but it's to get people off of the opiate drug. And so it's prescribed by the government. Oftentimes you need to go, especially when you first start, you have to go every single day, and you have to do a UA. and then they will give you your methadone treatment for that day. It makes you basically, you don't have the detox symptoms and you don't crave it. That's why they put you on it. You don't crave to have the heroin.
So the methadone was used to help you get off of the heroin,
Yep.
but
Mhm.
then the methadone becomes a problem of its own.
Right. And the methadone's interesting because you don't feel addicted into it, and that it doesn't make you feel differently. So you're not addicted to that, whereas heroin makes you feel a certain way. Methadone doesn't make you feel any way. It's just that then your body wants it, and it's then soaked into your bones.
Gotcha. Rachel, can you give us a brief kind of how you got to that rock bottom point? You know, because it's not every day that you met someone who got to that heroin addiction, and it's
Mhm.
again, I'm assuming that circle of five, someone that was very close to you, obviously died from using. Can you walk us through how you got to that point?
Mhm. Yeah, so when I was 15, my mom was just she just had gotten married to her third husband. They were having a child, my brother. So she was pregnant with my brother, and they kind of had started their own life. My dad was an alcoholic all growing up, so he really was not a part of our lives that much. And so during that time, uh, her my mom's new husband had asked my mom to pull me out of volleyball. I was playing club volleyball. It was my love. I loved to do it. Um, Asked her to pull me out because he thought it was a waste of money. So she did that. When I was pulled out of that, and then they kind of started their own life, I was looking for love. I was looking to find something else that brought me joy, because volleyball brought me joy. I was just in search of something. And what I ended up finding it in was a group of friends who, were doing a lot of drugs. They were searching for the exact same thing I was searching for. We all just were searching for something to fulfill us and bring us happiness in some way. A friend brought heroin from California, and I remember the first time I tried it, and I was scared to try it because there was this thought behind it that it was like the worst drug out there.
Hmm.
And that was really it. It took me one time to try it, and for all of us to try it. And actually all of us went into a very long heroin addiction where three of our friends are still alive, but the rest have died.
Wow.
Wow.
Hmm.
When
Yeah. So that's really how
uh,
it started.
it's crazy, and honestly, that's not that uncommon, right? Like that's sometimes we may not know somebody or get this close and personal with that story, but it's not that uncommon, and I think we see a lot of that in our society today, with the exploration and you know, I know people have different views on drugs and stuff, but there's definitely a cost to it on the backside. So I want to know, Rachel, for you, because you're very public and you have so many people that look up to you. When did you get comfortable sharing this part of your story? When did you know that, like, this, I guess what I'm trying to say is, when did you cross, like, you could share this story and this story will help lift people up instead of kind of hiding from your own story, if that makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely. It was about 3 years ago. So even though I've been working in the health and fitness industry for the past 12 years, I've been closely working in people's transformation for the past 3 years. And that's when I really came into this place of knowing that everybody has a story, and your story is impactful to other people. And so that's when I really started to be open and share about it.
Well, and for the record, I mean, did you lose clients when you shared this, or like what was the response? And because what I want our community to know, and we've talked about this so many times, is sometimes we minimize our own stories. Our own stories aren't that important as this story or that story, but I'm a big believer that there's somebody for everybody's story out there if we get the courage to tell it. So, what were some of the repercussions maybe when you shared that story and the results that came of it?
Mhm. I have not, that I know of, nobody's left me as a client because of it. And you know, maybe I've chose to ignore anything negative that has come out of it, but I really have not noticed that. I've more seen people just feel inspired
Yeah.
and feel uplifted and feel like, wow, like if you can do that, so can I. Like I can move forward on what I'm going through.
Yeah, and I think that's the point for most listeners is no matter what we're doing, they'll identify with your story and they'll take it and they'll apply it to them, and it makes you more human, especially as a trainer, right? Which is a very difficult thing because as a personal trainer, there's naturally kind of a bias at times for clients to be like, well, I can't look like her. It's easy to say like I can't become this, but when you hear the story, it's just what you said. It relates. The stories are what truly bind us. It's
Mm-hmm.
and man, I applaud you for having the courage to share that story because it's amazing.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Rachel, was there a specific moment or experience that made you decide, okay, it's time to come out with this. It's time to start sharing this story, this part of my story?
Well, I started to surround myself with some people that were in this mindset. So really that actually was something that was a big thing for me. I started working for Chris and Heidi Pell from Extreme Weight Loss Edition. And they're very, very big on vulnerability. And so starting to surround myself with people who were sharing their story in that way was something that really opened my eyes to seeing the power of it.
Mm.
Yeah, again, it's that circle of five, right? It's changing that influence and realizing your story is not something you have to be ashamed of. Your story is actually your strength, right? Because,
Right.
if you don't want to do a workout tomorrow, well, you know where you've already been. You know what happens when we don't do what we're supposed to do. And it's such a big message for our community and those that listen is embrace your story, right? Don't hide from your story. Don't run from your story. We just did an episode last week talking about knowing yourself. And I can't really lead anybody else until I lead myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think by embracing your story, that's you actually make people want to follow you.
Mm-hmm.
That's
I
just
couldn't agree
phenomenal.
more. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, that's extremely powerful, Rachel. So for some of our listeners who may be at the stage of just making the change, right? So Rachel, when she just went to Hawaii, can you kind of walk us through that time period of those first few months? How did you find that job? How was it with that family friend who was like, I'm sure had her guard up of if you ever use again in my home, probably was pretty strict. You know that this isn't a parent, that this is you're in a whole different world. Can you kind of walk us through that time period and how that was for you?
Yeah. So, uh, well, I have two things to say about that. So the first thing I'll say is that in that moment, all I knew is that I needed to do something different. I had no idea how it was going to happen or what it was going to look like. It really was, what they say, one day at a time.
Hmm.
And for anybody that is in that place right now, because anybody can be on the place. You don't have to be a heroin addict. You
Yeah.
don't have to be an addict to be in that place right now. You're in that point of you're ready to transform, right?
Right.
And so looking back, what I can tell you was the thing that helped me move forward, and the same thing that I teach and coach people on every single day now is, and that's having one promise that you keep to yourself every single day, no matter what. And it's about building integrity. So at that time in my life, I had no integrity for myself. I had no integrity at all at that time in my life. But that's not true for everybody who are in that place of transformation. But what is true is that you don't have integrity for yourself, and you're not showing up for yourself. You continually wake up every single day and break promises to yourself. And that's what I was doing every single day in my life, right? I was just breaking promise after promise after promise. Well, the changing moment was when I decided to keep a promise to myself and build integrity, because integrity, all it is a habit. It's a habit just like anything else. I needed to learn how to have that for myself,
And
and
what
how
was
I
that
just
promise that you decided to keep to yourself?
don't use.
Simple.
Today, I will not use, no matter what. even if I don't get out of this bed because I'm in so much pain right now, I will not use. And that's what I had to do every single day. And then I ended up stacking promises on top of that when I was ready. So then it became, all right, today I'm not going to use, and I'm going to get up and I'm going to go try to find a job. And that in itself was very interesting because I had not worked in a long time. I was living on the streets. I was living a completely different life. I didn't even, I didn't even walk in that world. And so then it was, building that habit of going to work and having the I don't know if it's the habit, the work habit, I didn't have that in my life. So power promise stacking is really where this all came from. So then then my promise was, all right, you're going to not use today, and now you're going to show up for work, right? And kept doing those things, and it expanded from there, right? So then it was like, you're gonna not use today, you're gonna show up for work, and then that's when I really started to get into reading self-help books. And I my first two self-help books were, one was The Purpose Driven Life, and the other one was The Secret. So those
Yeah.
are my two first books that I started reading.
Love me some Secret. I probably got a little too deep into that, even on the craps table. I was like, I can win it all, I believe. Oh man, that's powerful. So with personal integrity and promise stacking, did you have any specific exercises? Would you just say it in your mind? Would you look at yourself in the mirror? Would you write them down? How did you exercise keeping promises to yourself?
Mhm. Well, at that time, I wasn't doing any of that. I did every single day say to myself, "You're not going to use today," and especially when I was in those moments of like, all I wanted to do was use. Is like, in this moment, even in this moment, you're just not going to use in this moment, right? It was moment by moment.
Yeah.
But when I'm coaching people now on power promise stacking, I do have them create something where they're having accountability with it, whether it be with me or if you have somebody else in your life that you are, you know, having to show up with that accountability that you kept your promise today, right? Or something that you're keeping track of that on, or have it on your mirror and something that you're reading out and igniting the day with, right? To start your day off with that.
And so one of the things listening is you didn't have all the answers, right? You didn't have this 1 through 26 step plan that once all these are in place, then I'm going to take action. You leapt and just started with one simple process. I think that's a great message for our community is when you're wanting to make change, you don't have to have everything laid out. You don't have to have every detail because there's going to be things where you don't know. But what you have to do is a commitment to get started.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh my God. That's an incredible point. It's an incredible point. And I think sometimes it's better not to have all of the answers in front of you, because that can become daunting. People become to this place of like, oh my God, how am I ever going to do all of those things? I didn't have that in front of me. It felt very blank. It felt like I couldn't even see the next day in front of me. All I knew is that for this day, this is what I needed to do. Um, and so it felt, in some ways, I feel like it felt more doable than if I would have seen everything I was about to go through in front of me. Because the bottom line is that transformation, changing your life, is painful. It is not easy. A lot of people feel like, once I decide to lose the weight or take this step in my life, like my life is instantly going to be so much better. Well, that's baloney.
Yeah.
Like it's
You could say
totally not
bullshit
true.
on here.
Like what?
You could say bullshit on here. We're
Okay,
okay with
okay,
it.
good.
Baloney bullshit.
It's super duper baloney.
Yeah, it really isn't. It's a lot of it, it's not easy. Change is not easy, and that's why a lot of people fear it, right? So I think not having all of that in front of me in a lot of ways was helpful.
Well, what I really love about your story is that you did something that Tony Robbins says you have to do in undergoing when you really want to make true change, and that's taking massive action. I mean, you put all your stuff, you moved all the way to Hawaii, you took massive action, which built momentum from the get-go. And for our listeners, you don't have to wait for a massive tragedy like a death of a loved one to get you to act. We have the power to choose and to decide at any time to take massive action to start building this momentum. So I love that part of your story of you decided, wow, it's time for me to move, leave everything that I've known and go to a completely different place and start over. And then you were able to build day by day from that. Can you tell us about maybe when you had your first breakthrough and really started to get confidence in yourself after you went to that first group class and you're like, okay, I'm starting to get into fitness. When were some of your, or maybe the first time where you're like, you know what, like I'm transforming?
Yeah. So, man, that's hard to say because I really feel like it unfolded so slowly over time.
Of course.
But I would say that one of the things that happened was man, that time and the time that I really started to working out, that was a moment in my life where I really felt like I'm starting to see a change in myself. Like I'm actually starting to feel this thing that I've been searching for so long. Um, further down in my like further along in my journey after I moved back to Colorado, after I started to work in the fitness industry and it started to overcome that feeling of, because for a very long time I walked in the feeling of feeling like a fraud. Like every single day I woke up and I felt like a fraud because I had lived in this other life for so long that waking up and going to work at a gym and talking about being healthy and all of that, it felt like it really wasn't me for quite a few years actually. And so when I really started to come out of that and not live in that imposter place anymore was a huge pivotal changing moment for me, that I felt like this is me, this is my life, like
Yeah.
this is real.
Mm.
And what was there something that led to you doing that? Because we talked a lot about that. Like one of the best ways to know yourself or even get to know yourself is when you forgive what you've already done, right? Instead of carrying it as baggage and letting it hold you down. Was there a moment that you kind of forgave yourself, or
Mm-hmm.
was there a relationship that came in? Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so it was interesting. I had just left I hadn't been in a relationship for quite a long time when I was through my recovery. Like I never was in a relationship during that time. When I moved back to Colorado a couple years after being back, I had gotten in a relationship, but it had been a very unhealthy relationship. And through that whole entire relationship, I was thinking, my intuition kept telling me the moment you let go of this relationship, because it really was drawing me back into an old lifestyle that I was living in, not the addiction aspect, but just living an unhealthy lifestyle of mental and emotional.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kept hearing my intuition. It was like, once you leave this relationship, you will push into the next phase in your life. And it was like a couple of years of me going back into that relationship, and it was less about the relationship, it was more me trying to, like, having a hard time of letting go of the person that I used to be, and in the negative thoughts and feelings that had become such a big habit in my life. And so the moment that I let go of that relationship is when it was like change for me instantly. In fact, I met Garrett almost like just directly after that relationship ended, and he was such a healthy person in my life, and my life really unfolded from there in that really what we're talking about, like that changing moment.
Yeah, that's amazing. And Garrett was pretty much complete opposite.
He is hands
Right.
down my complete opposite.
He is hands that, yeah, and that's so since you brought up Garrett, I want to ask, because we do have a lot of police officers that listen and a lot in the law enforcement community. Did you talk with Garrett before you're like, hey, I'm going to share this side of our story? Because a lot of us never knew this.
Mhm. Yeah. So when I told Garrett, we were a couple months, well, I can't remember if he had already asked me to marry him or this was before, but I, at that time, so when I moved back to Colorado, I had been pulled over, and I knew in the back of my head that this was always there. I just didn't know if it was ever going to catch up to me. But I had been arrested. I had multiple felonies out of New Mexico for when I was 17 years old. So anyway, I had been going through the whole entire process of even though that was when I was 17 years old, this is many years later, really paying the price for what I had done then. And so he really was not aware of that. And I knew Garrett, he had just left the military. I knew he wanted to be a police officer. And so I said, wow, if I'm going to spend the rest of my life with this guy, I better I better tell him like what's going on. And at this time he was applying for like going for the sheriff's department, I believe. And so anyway, I told him. He was pretty shocked, and he said he just needed some time to think about it and process it. But it was a couple hours later. He's like, well, I love you anyway. But it was interesting because Garrett is the guy that, you know, even if he's ever held pot to his mouth, he didn't inhale. Like he's never, So yeah, but
That's
it was
great.
interesting.
Yeah. For those of you guys, I've known Rachel and Garrett for a while now, and I'll never forget when Garrett was trying to become a police officer. We went over to do the background check for him. And part of the check is you meet with the family, and Rachel had this unbelievably organized binder of all of Garrett's accolades, and they were like not laminated, but like sheet protectors, and Garrett's complete opposite. He's very, very quiet, very reserved. He won't tell you anything about how awesome he is, but Rachel does it for him. And I remember we left and we came back, and everybody's like, well, what do you think? Should we hire the guy? And we're like, we don't know. Like, he seems pretty good, but definitely if his wife wants to be a cop, we got to hire her.
How
That's
funny.
funny.
Rachel, so I'm curious to know for our listeners. So I appreciate you sharing with us that kind of first piece of the transformation journey. Can you tell us about when did you feel the strength that you could come back to Colorado, right? Because I'm sure there was probably a little bit of fear around that of, okay, I'm going to the place that I left, and I left this addiction lifestyle, and for a lot of people going through transformation, you took this massive action to leave, and it definitely, you need to get to a certain point to where you can go back with confidence and risk potentially being offered or pushed into that lifestyle again. Because like you mentioned, even though that unhealthy relationship didn't bring back some of the addiction aspect, it did bring back some of the unhealthy lifestyle. So what was it to where you felt like, okay, I'm first of all strong enough to go back to Colorado, and then also what made you want to go back?
Mm-hmm. Well, I came back because my grandma, who I've been very close to, my grandfather had died, and she had called me up and said, hey, Rachel, I would love if you could come live with me. I really don't want to live alone, and it would be great to have you here. And she felt like it'd be a great transition for me. And so her opening that door was really what led me to coming back at all. I don't know that everything happens the way it's meant to happen. I'm a true believer in that. And so that door opened. Whether I felt like I was strong enough, I can't tell you that I felt like I was strong enough. I struggled with it a lot. I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know how I was going to feel or if I was going to fall back into those ways. But I knew that I felt a strong draw to at least try, and also to show up for somebody who had cared about me and loved me so much, and that I had built so much, I'd spent so much time building this integrity, and now I really wanted to do something that I hadn't done, and that was start showing up for other people. And that was a way for me to do that.
Good old grandma. Gra- Grandmas have all the wisdom in the world, so
They do.
it was definitely the right move.
Yeah, it was. It was a great way to transition over.
And when did you know that your passion was going to lead you to coaching others? What,
Oh wow. I um I I would say probably about 5 years into working in the health and fitness industry. Even though I had already been working in, coaching people in group fitness and personal training, what I started to notice when in working with people, even though I was working in what I was passionate about and bringing them that joy in that way, there was a huge piece missing. And that was is that I could give people fitness and nutrition all day long. And I was, I felt it felt very easy to me. But the problem with it was that I knew, because everything I had been through, is that if you have not done any mental and emotional work, giving somebody fitness and nutrition, most likely either they'll stick with it for a little while and then they'll, go back to their old ways, or you're going to give it to them and they're not going to do it at all, because until you fix what's going on in here,
mm,
you can't fix what's going on the outside. So that's when I really started to notice that I had something else. I had learned something else. There was a great gift that was also given to me through my transformation. It wasn't just learning how to work out and eat right. It was that I had gone through a mental and emotional transformation, and that really was the special ingredient to helping people transform mentally, emotionally, and physically, and bringing them that physical aspect. So that's when I knew that I was meant to coach people in the full circle.
yeah, that's good. And that is definitely the missing piece in so so many people's journeys, no matter whether it's a fitness piece or a career change or relationships, is they just don't create that value for themselves, right? They don't work through the limiting beliefs and the stuff that's holding them back. So is there a particular success story you're proud of in your coaching that you're like, man, like when I reached this person and saw what they did, I knew like this is what I'm supposed to do forever?
Mhm. I can't say it was my first moment, but it's definitely a moment that I always go back to, and that's Amy. She did coaching with me for a year. And Amy has an incredible story. The moment before I was about to get on the phone with her, I actually was crying. Like, I was very upset because I thought, I don't know if I can coach this person, because she had filled out her assessment form and I had read her story. And her daughter, her and her husband's daughter had been murdered a year before she was going to start coaching with me. And I think that losing a child, any parent could say, is probably their worst nightmare. And so, having seen that, like reading this and getting on the phone with her, I kept thinking that, and I just prayed for strength. But again, I believe that everything happens for a reason. I believe everybody that I coach is brought to me for a reason. And so I worked with Amy over the year. She lost over 100 pounds, and went from, um, you know, doing like home body weight workouts to now she's training for a full marathon, or not marathon, Ironman. And watching her be able to grow mentally, emotionally, and physically like that, and make that full transformation, was so incredibly beautiful. Watching somebody who was in that amount of pain, and really you could see it in every aspect of their life, and seeing them work on themselves and really make that transformation was so incredible. And Amy actually, her and her husband sold their home out of Arizona and moved here to Colorado to live by me, so that Amy could work with me in the festival and in my vision. And it's really been just such an incredible journey.
That's amazing. So she's part of the fitness festival stuff now?
Yep, she works full time for the fitness festival.
Wow, unbelievable.
Yeah. So I love their story.
Yeah, I love their story, and I love that your story impacts their story. And I think that's the big thing for our community to take away is don't shy from your story, no matter where you've been. If you're not proud of it, if it was pain, like that is important to somebody. And quite honestly, Rachel, if you had never shared your story, she may not have connected with you, right? She may not have, she might have, it's easy to put these people on pedestals where we think everybody's perfect and only we have these struggles. But the fact is we all have them. And to truly connect with people is through your story. So that's unbelievable. And then your story changes her story. And now you've put her in a position where she can share her story and impact more. And that's the value of the community. And that's the value of really, quite honestly, just accepting who we are and quit trying to be perfect because none of us are there.
Right. Absolutely. The great points. Right on.
That's
Yeah, really powerful, Rachel. I just want to say thank you for sharing your story with us, with your community, and just want to say that I'm proud of you, from 15-year-old Rachel to who you are today, running fitness events and impacting people's lives. That's a powerful journey, and we're proud of you here at the On Purpose community. So great work.
Thank you.
Is there anything that you'd like to share specifically for our listeners to take away? As you know, one of the big differentiators for our podcast is that we're always trying to level up. We're always trying to transform and find more ways to find more purpose in our lives. We have purposeful practices after each episode. Is there any specific key takeaways or even a purposeful practice that you recommend for our community?
Yeah, so I would say two things. And one is that Jared keeps going back to this over and over, and I love it. And that's that share your story. I cannot tell you how many people shy away from doing that for whatever reason, most of the time out of fear of judgment. But really being able to share that with people and knowing what, you never know what kind of impact you can make and how much you can help somebody by doing that. So that is one. Two, is what I talked about earlier, and it goes back to personal integrity, and that is something that I think that any of us can apply to our lives. I hear it from people all the time, even people who are extremely successful in life, in business, entrepreneurs who are like killing it. Oftentimes, what is still missing from their lives and why they're struggling with their health and fitness is because they still don't have that self integrity, right? They're showing up for their families, they're crushing it, their kids need anything, they do it. They're in their careers, they work their butts off morning till night, and friendships, all of these other places in their lives. But when it comes to them and their own happiness and feeling good, that's when they continually break promises over and over, because it's a lot easier for us to break promises to ourselves. So my encouragement to you is if that is you, if you feel like every single night you're going to bed and you're going to bed thinking, tomorrow when I wake up, I'm going to start eating better, or I'm going to start working out, or I'm going to start meditating, or all these things maybe that you want to do for your own health. And you go to bed at night, and then you wake up in the morning and the kids happen and this happens, and then you keep breaking those promises over and over. I encourage you to look over what you really want in life and figure out what your non-negotiables are. Take one of those things and make it a non-negotiable in your life. Make it your power promise to yourself, and start building that habit of integrity to yourself right now, and start with one thing. If you're an overachiever, you're going to look at all 10 things you want to do, and you're going to start thinking that you need to do all 10 of those things. No, take one thing and build from there.
I love that.
That was good. Good stuff right there. Where
Yeah,
can people follow you, Rachel, if they want to get more involved with you, maybe look at you for some coaching opportunities and just stay connected with all the awesome stuff you're doing? Where will they find you?
Yeah, so I have, you can go to rachelpastor.com. On Instagram, you can find me at rachel.pastor. And as well, we have fitnessfestivalevents.com, and then Fitness Festival Events on Instagram is the best places.
And now, how, real quick before we let you go, do you have any events scheduled, or is kind of everything on hold with the current situation for you as well?
Yeah. No, right now we do have our big festivals that go as of right now. I mean, I guess nothing in life is certain right now, but It's September 26th. So it's still about 5 months away, is our biggest festival of the year. So Saturday, September 26th, right here in Fort Collins, Colorado.
Amazing. Yeah, well, thank you so much for joining us, Rachel. And it's a pleasure to be able to share your story. And Ali and I talk about this, and when we write about it, it is truly, I think, one of the best blessings you can get in life is when somebody allows you to help share their story.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yes.
know, and we're grateful that you gave us this time today.
Hey,
Yeah, thank you, Rachel.
Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
And remember, team, life is far too short to live any other way than on purpose. We will see you all again next week.